Alrighty, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Doffney. I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library, and it's my pleasure to present our speaker for today, Joe Martucci, who is the President and Director of Meteorology at Cup of Joe Weather and Drone, where he thrives at the forefront of meteorology and media. He is a certified broadcast meteorologist and certified digital meteorologist with the American Meteorological Society, and he's New Jersey's only meteorologist to hold both certifications. He's also an FAA certified Part 107 drone pilot. He's a born and bred New Jerseyan and earned his meteorology degree from Rutgers University, where he's frequently on campus for talks and attends nearly every football home game. So, welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to our patrons today on this phenomenon known as the Cape May bubble. Some of us, might be familiar with it. Some of us might know it, but not know it by name. So we're really excited to hear some more about it. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Andrew, for having me. And thanks for everyone for taking time out of your day to learn about the Cape May bubble, or some of you might call it the Cape May umbrella, or some of you might not even know about it. And we're going to talk about it today. Really
no,
appreciate being with all of you with the speaker series. I'm sorry, Andrew.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, not a problem. Before we jump into your presentation, I just want to clarify a couple things and do some housekeeping items. But first and foremost, we will be taking your questions today at the end of Joe's presentation. But please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat button at any time to send them to us, and we'll be happy to address them. Joe has provided me with a cool little handout that I'll be uploading to the chat once we get underway that has kind of all the cool little weather facts about New Jersey. So it'll be really interesting to look at. There will be a survey available at the end of the webinar, so if you have time, we ask that you please complete the survey. We really truly appreciate any and all feedback that you can give us. And if you want more information on New Jersey weather, you can visit Joe's website, cupofjoe.live, and you can learn all sorts of fantastic things there. Um, and one last thing, I just want to do a brief overview of the Zoom dashboard. This is what your dashboard should look like if you're using a PC or a Mac. The dashboard may look a little bit different if you're using a mobile device, but the features will all still be there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can check your audio settings. So if you're using an external listening device like a headset or earbuds, you can check to make sure it's connected properly there. At any point during the presentation, if you have issues, there is a raise hand button here in the middle. You can click on that and that'll alert me. I will send you a message in Zoom and hopefully be able to solve any problems that you are having. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A or the chat button to send them to us at any time, and then we'll be addressing them at the end of Joe's presentation. So that is everything that I have for you. So now, Joe, you can go ahead and take it away.
All right, cool. And I can just share my screen by just clicking and going, right?
Yep, you're good.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I think everybody can see this. It's going to have my logo there. We have a photo. Is that what you see, Andrew? You see like a
Yep.
drone photo? Yep. Awesome. Excellent. Great. Well, again, good to be here with you and everyone on this windy Wednesday afternoon. Um, it's a pleasure to be with you all and talk about the Cape May bubble. This footage that you're seeing, drone footage, I know we have the logo blocking it, but this is from Sea Isle City in Cape May County, exit 17 off the Garden State Parkway. As Andrew said, I'm also a certified drone pilot, so I'm able to get great footage of what's happening in Cape May County, and there's many, many good spots to get drone footage in the county. Let's talk about what we'll discuss, and that is this right here, the bubble, the Cape May bubble. When I started at the Press of Atlantic City back in 2017, a number of people told me when I first started, oh, the Cape May bubble, the weather's different here in Cape May or in Avalon or in Ocean City than everywhere else, I promise. And I'm like, yeah, everybody says that. Everyone says the weather at their house is different than, elsewhere in the state. But there is actual scientific evidence that says that, yes, the weather is different in Cape May County than other parts of the state and even other parts of the southern part of New Jersey as well. So I'm always happy to talk about this. It's a great talk, and we'll have some fun along the way. Andrew did a really nice job at talking a little bit about myself, so I'll keep this pretty brief. I'm a meteorologist by trade. I own my own business, Cup of Joe Weather and Drone. You can find that at cupofjoe.live, cupajoe.live. My main focus is the Jersey Shore from Cape May all the way up to Sandy Hook, Monmouth, Ocean, Atlantic, and Cape May counties. But I also, will cover everything and anything in New Jersey as well when needed. Here's a photo of me when I was about, I think about 6 or 7 years old. I was a chef for Halloween. Now, I didn't want to be a chef growing up, but I did want to be a meteorologist growing up. One of the first things I ever remember is I was in my grandma's basement. My grandma's still alive. She lives in Clark. That's where we were for this story. And I remember seeing Al Roker on TV. Al Roker was on local NBC, not the Today Show, national NBC at the time. And I remember my aunt or my grandma saying to me, like, look, Joe, it's going to be you and you be when you're older. And I remember thinking to myself, even back then, yes, that's what I want to do when I get older. And I think if you lined up 10 meteorologists in a row, ask them how long they've wanted to do meteorology, I think 7 out of 10 of them would say since before middle school. It's just something you get the bug early for. So growing up, I always read lots of weather books. I would track hurricanes over the summer. Yeah, I'd like to play outside with my friends, but I also wanted to come back and I used to draw Africa and Europe and the Virgin Islands and used to track these hurricanes on the Weather Channel when they used to have their tropical updates at 52 past the hour. Weather.com was my first website when I was in 1998. I was 7 at the time. A little bit more about, what I do. A meteorologist is a Greek term for a thing high up. Now, of course, when we think meteors, we're thinking about astronomy, right? But in the Greeks' perspective of view, thing high up included clouds and, of course, meteors and planets and all that. But I do weather videos every day. Triax 57 News is where I do most of my news work, but I am on News 12 every once in a while, so you might see me there as a freelance meteorologist. I write for Shore Local magazine. I'll write for other places as well. Shore Local's in part of Cape May County, so we talk about the bubble. Follow me on social media, just about everywhere. And I do consulting as well for the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, Ventnor City as well. You see a lot of coastal things here, and this all parlays into the Cape May bubble. Last thing I'll say, like Andrew mentioned, I am a certified broadcast meteorologist and a certified digital meteorologist. Now, when it comes to following people for weather, I'd love it if you follow me, but you don't have to. As long as you follow somebody with one of these two seals, you're in good company. They're someone who at the highest level are certified for both their proficiency in talking about the weather and knowing about the weather as well. And I always encourage people to do some homework, who you're watching on TV or on YouTube. See if they have one of these two seals. Those are the people you really want to follow because they know the most and they know how to communicate it. I think we're holding off on questions until the end, so I'll skip this, but this is where you can follow me again, social media, and my website as well. So that being said, let's get into the Cape May bubble. Now, when you look at Cape May County, the one thing that's different about Cape May County than any other county in New Jersey is we have water on 3 sides. Cape May County is a peninsula. Technically, New Jersey is also a peninsula because we have the Delaware River to our west, we have the ocean to our east, and the Hudson River. But Cape May County is a peninsula within a peninsula, and it's localized. That means we have localized impacts. And Cape May County includes everywhere from Ocean City to Upper Township on all the way down south into Cape May and Cape May Point. Here's a look at Atlantic City International Airport in Galloway. This is representative for a lot of inland places in New Jersey where we get we are below 32 degrees with our low temperature from about December 10th to about March 10th. On average, that's where our low is below 32. And we get above 80 degrees with our high sometime in early to mid-June, around June 10th or June 15th. And we stay that way until about Labor Day weekend. That sounds, I think, pretty typical for a number of people here who might be watching here today. And you see those arrows just to give you a little more clarity. Well, here's Lower Township. And Lower Township is our main observing site for the county. It's been around since the late 1800s. The data is very good. It's right now the person who's been taking these observations has been doing so for decades. And it's right at the tip of it's close to the southern tip of the peninsula. It's just north of Cape May City itself. But there's a little bit of a difference here. So we look at those 32 and 80 degree lines, and it's a little bit different for when we get below 32. On average, Cape May County, most of Cape May County, especially the lower part, which is where the classic Cape May bubble comes from, starts around Christmas and then goes only until about March 1st. It's a shorter season for below 32 degrees. 80 degrees, where high temperature starts around June 15th. That's typical, but it extends a little bit later towards September the 10th. So a little bit longer of a season there. Now, this is, you could plug and play this for Cape May itself, Sea Isle City, Avalon, right along the immediate shoreline. Lower Township is indicative of the coastal communities within Cape May County here. We take a look at our climatology in Cape May, and there are facts that this is different than other parts of the state. It is the driest part of New Jersey. On average, we see around 40 inches of precipitation a year. Most places in New Jersey, outside of the county, see about 48 inches. And when you go far north, northeast part of the state, it's actually closer to 50 or 52. We have more freeze-free days on average. That's pretty self-intuitive because we have the water on all three sides. Water is a moderating influence. It keeps us milder during the summer. It keeps us cool, or excuse me, milder during the winter, cooler during the summer. So we see more freeze-free days. There's a longer growing season in Cape May than anywhere in New Jersey. Now, even just last year, the difference in the number of growing days, so days that were above freezing in Cape May, there were 112 more days that you could grow in Cape May County than you could in Sussex County, New Jersey. New Jersey is the fourth smallest state in the union, but we have such a big difference in our growing season, and Cape May County is at the longer end of that. Sea breezes, like we said, has a big influence. Cooler during the summer, milder during the winter. Here's a look at the bubble at work. This is March 15th. This was from this past year. And it's 63 in Lower Township. It's 52 in West Cape May. And we have these sea breeze fronts at work. What are sea breeze fronts? They're essentially little cold fronts. They separate two air masses. In this case, the strong sun, when you get into March, April, May, June, is heating the land much faster than it's heating the ocean. And this is the sea breeze front is the ocean's way of saying, hold on, you're heating up too fast, land. We need to balance this out. The earth likes balance. So this is the way of doing so. And we get those big differences. If you live at the shore, doesn't even have to be Cape May. You live anywhere at the shore, you know the spring isn't our time. The fall is our time of year. That's when we get those milder days in places inland. But during the spring, yeah, we're sometimes, Cape May can be 10, 20, in extreme cases, 30 degrees colder than even somewhere like Vineland in Cumberland County or Hamilton in Atlantic County. Forget about places like Trenton or Philadelphia. They regularly, a couple times a year, there's a 30-degree difference between the two. But even between places in South Jersey, there's a difference. This is a more zoomed in look. Again, 63 in Lower Township, 52 in West Cape May itself, and then 71 in Hamilton. So you go from sweaters to shorts in just a short amount of time. This was really the research, and I'll explain this, that got me really interested in talking about the Cape May bubble a lot, because I was flipping through, this is called the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society. It's one of our trade magazines here. And there was a journal article talking about the frequency of thunderstorms across the United States. And I said, I wonder if there's something at it when it comes to the Cape May bubble. This is by Frederic Fabry from the University, or McGill University, which is in Montreal, Quebec. And most of New Jersey saw 6 hours of thunderstorms a year. And this is true for all of New Jersey, but even in South Jersey, most places saw 6 hours of thunderstorms over their head a year. The exception was this Cape May to Vineland corridor, where you saw about 4 hours a year. In other words, a 33% difference in thunderstorms between Cape May and most of Cape May County, and even other places in South Jersey, yet alone the rest of the state. There was a real difference here. Now, why was this? Well, the Delaware Bay has something to do with this. It destabilizes the storms. The classic stereotypical Cape May bubble story I hear is, Joe, I was sitting on the beach in Cape May or Cape May Point. I saw this big dark thunderstorm cloud out to our west, but by the time it got here, there was no rain. Or, Joe, there was a severe thunderstorm warning in the Delmarva Peninsula, just to Cape May County's west. And by the time it got here, it's just plain rain. The Delaware Bay has a big influence, especially during the spring and early summer. The cooler the water, the more stable it is. And as a result, we're talking about this kind of taking the legs out from underneath of the thunderstorms or even rain showers that come in from the west. Here's a look at New Jersey in detail by thunderstorms by the time of day. And not only were there less thunderstorms in Cape May County, but the thunderstorms happened later in the day. Good news for tourism because you can get a full day on the beach on average because those thunderstorms aren't coming at 4 or 5 o'clock. They're coming more like 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night on average. This is real data that was done by the university or McGill University in Montreal. Now, why does this happen? I can't say I know for sure. I've talked with Dave Robinson, who's the New Jersey State climatologist, about this. I call him my weather dad as a side note. I did research with him back when I was at Rutgers, and we have the same May 13th birthday. And we also do a monthly weather roundup each month on Triax 57, including this Friday. You can check that out. We think it has something to do with the sea breeze, though, and the location and the geography of the coast. From Tom's River to Atlantic City, and really you could say from Sandy Hook all the way down to Atlantic City, the west winds meet the east winds earlier. So as a result, a lot of times, if you kind of see my hands, you get the east wind and the west wind. When they combine together, they push up. Upward motion creates clouds, which create rain, and in summer and spring can create thunderstorms as well. That happens earlier in the day. When you go from Atlantic City on south, including Cape May, your geography is more southwest, or excuse me, yeah, southwest to northeast. They meet later in the day. That sea breeze front can kick in later, and those thunderstorms happen later in the day as a result. Here's a look at our precipitation. I made one error here. I apologize. It's not the past 90 days. It's the past 180 days. But look, Cape May County, 9.3 inches of precipitation, tied with Atlantic County for the least in the state. Could it be the Cape May bubble? Probably not. I think this is more or less just weather being weather here. The heaviest rain and storms have just been north and west of us. But again, part of that's climate, and climate says that Cape May County is drier than other counties. So there is some influence from the relatively stable ocean we had, the stabilizing ocean during the fall. Remember how dry we were in October? It was the longest dry stretch on record everywhere in New Jersey. That is longstanding weather observations. We went as high as we went at least 39 days without precipitation in the state at any of our major reporting stations. Lower Township was certainly one of those. And it's been super dry. I think we all know that. And January is going to be in the top 5, not probably, definitely in the top 5 for driest on record since 1895. And you look at some of these individual locations, and when you get far southeast, like in Cape May County, we're in the 2 spot. Now we're going to get some rain on Friday, so that will change things. But Cape May County, more or less, has been the driest part of the state throughout the past 180 days here. I don't think it's necessarily the Cape May bubble, but I think just because of the climate of Cape May, and again, being drier than other places, that's why we have that here. One other thing too, when you think about Cape May, if you go down to Cape May or you live in Cape May County, the one thing you think about are vineyards. The wine industry and the agritourism is huge in Cape May County. Well, the Cape May bubble and the climate of Cape May have something to do with that. It is milder later in the fall. We have a longer growing season. It's a little bit drier. Where do we usually grow grapes? Mediterranean climates, France, Italy, part of Spain. What do they have? They have drier climates, especially during the during the summer and fall. And that's what we see in Cape May County. They also have, compared to most of New Jersey, longer growing seasons. They get just as hot as we do, but they don't get as cold as we do typically during the winter. Now, of course, Cape May does get below freezing. It was super cold last week, but we hang on to that milder air a little bit longer during the fall compared to other places in New Jersey. And that's why there's so many vineyards in Cape May County, because of the Cape May bubble and the climate that can support it. So it's super interesting. And again, those stories that I hear from people, they don't stop. I'm sure you guys, if you live in Cape May County or visit Cape May County, you've probably heard of something, similar. And yeah, there is a real connection between, the the Cape May bubble, what you think of and what actually scientifically is happening. Less rain, less precipitation in general, milder climate during the winter, a little bit cooler during the summer. And the biggest thing that I think is unique to Cape May County, in my opinion, is less thunderstorms per year. There is less severe weather during the year in Cape May County due to thunderstorms and the hail and the damaging winds and even the tornadoes that could be brought by that kind of severe weather. So I wouldn't be a good meteorologist if I didn't have a 7-day forecast for you. So I have one here. This is what you can see on Tri-X 57. And, we take a look. Today's obviously super windy, even in Cape May County. It's a windy day out there today. We have a wind advisory in effect. We are looking for some rain Thursday to Friday, but notice what I put on Friday. The driest areas will be in Cape May County, furthest removed from the low pressure system that will pass in the northern part of the state and in the Hudson Valley in New York. But we kind of go up and down the roller coaster here with our temperatures over the next 7 days. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's not consistently cold like we've seen for most of January so far. And we look at the beach towns itself. I don't think we're going to get to 50 degrees, although today a few spots are, but I don't see us getting to 50 from Thursday beyond, but still milder than the average, which is in the low 40s for, this time of the year. Don't see any snow in the next 7 to 10 days at the Jersey Shore. There can be a few snow showers in the northwest corner of the state this afternoon that wouldn't really accumulate to anything. There will be a little bit of freezing rain and sleet, again, north of about Interstate 78 on Friday morning. But at the Jersey Shore, we're looking to be plain rain over the next 7 days. So with that, I want to thank everybody. If you want to use the QR codes here on the left, you can follow me right there at the QR code. You can also track our drought status. Drought's a big deal. Over the past couple of months, we are in a drought warning by the NJDEP. You can use that right QR code to see more on it. And Cape May County, along with Atlantic and Ocean, are still in a level 3 of 4 drought. That's called an extreme drought. The rest of the state has alleviated their drought, but because we've been, I don't want to say alleviated fully, still in drought for everywhere, for all of you across the state, but it's not as severe as a drought, significant as a drought, as in Cape May, Atlantic, and Ocean County, because it's been drier over the past 180 days, especially in Cape May County. So with that being said, Andrew, I'm happy to take any questions people have and talk about the Cape May bubble, or we can talk about weather or climate or whatever else you have to say. But I really appreciate being here at the New Jersey State Library with the speaker series. Andrew's done a really good job of coordinating all this, and looking forward to being with you more in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe, for everything. If anybody does have questions, please feel free to send them to us using the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be happy to address them. Do you see any changes or impacts to the bubble from climate change or climate variability?
Yeah, great question. And I actually, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen for 1 second because I want to pull something else up. And I figured I would get a question like this. So I just want to be clear on this before we get started, because climate change, is something that brings out a lot of emotion in people sometimes. So when it comes to climate change is not hope. It's not a religion. You don't believe in it or not. There are facts and forecasts, and then how to think about it or what to do, what not to do. That's where your beliefs come in. That's not my job. My job is the second line you see there, the facts and the forecasts. So to answer the person's questions who asked, what have we seen in Cape May County as a result, in the past couple of decades? Well, the obvious one is we've gotten warmer just generally, especially during the winter and the fall months. Now, that's been good for tourism. September is more or less a summer month. And Cape May County loves to have people during the fall. They have a whole marketing campaign around it. So we're warmer there. We've actually seen more snow as a result of climate change in the past 1 or 2 decades. Now, long term, that's going to decline. But for now, we're seeing a little bit more snow because we're still at an intersection where we're cold enough, we have a long enough period of time where we're cold enough for snow typically throughout the year. But at the same time, we're getting more moisture in our storms because there's more moisture available in the atmosphere. Another thing we've seen, as well as longer growing season. It kind of comes with the warmer stuff, with the warmer climate to be seen. Now, this is speculating. I don't want to say that this is a solid forecast, but I'm talking with some people at the National Weather Service, and they actually believe that there's not really going to be, as we go forward in time, a big increase in the summer daytime temperatures. Now, the reason for that is because of sea breeze fronts kicking in more. There's a theory out there, again, just a theory. This isn't a fact or a forecast, but just a theory out there that we're seeing, you know, more of these south and southwesterly winds. When you get those south and southwesterly winds, you get upwelling of the ocean, which means colder water from the sea floor mixes back up to the relatively milder sea surface, and that warmer sea surface temperatures goes further out to sea. Now, as a result of that, you get a bigger difference between the ocean water temperature and what's happening on land. Remember, we went back to that sea breeze front. I said a sea breeze front is the ocean's way of saying, hold on, land, you're much warmer than I am. We need to balance this out. Well, if your ocean is still relatively cold throughout the summer, and this summer the ocean was relatively cold throughout the summer, you're going to get more of those sea breeze fronts, which capture daytime temperatures. So there's a few things at play when it comes to climate change. But I have not seen or read anything regarding the thunderstorm activity throughout the state or throughout the Cape May bubble. It still looks to be less thunderstorms, compared to other parts of the state. So thanks for the question.
If there's a shorter growing season, how come there's so many vineyards in the Hunterdon County area up to Belvedere, for example?
Great question. So, climate change has a role to do with this. So, in the 19 and I'm not going to speak for everywhere in New Jersey, but in the 1970s, when the laws regarding the ability to have vineyards and agriculture expanded, there were none or very few vineyards north of the Atlantic City Expressway because the climate couldn't support it. Excuse me. Now we do see vineyards as far north as Interstate 78, which cuts through Hunterdon County, because the climate has warmed. The whole state is warmed. We've seen this. We've seen this. The growing season has lengthened everywhere from Sussex all the way down to Cape May County. So we now have new areas of the state that are warm enough to support some kind of agriculture through vineyards. Not going to be as, for lack of a better word, good as Cape May County, but still can be supported up to that far north. And that's typically as far north as we're seeing our vineyards now throughout the state, but still the majority, Cape May County is where they are. Good question.
How big is the bubble and what towns are covered?
All right. How big is the bubble? Depends on who you ask. The traditionalists would say that the Cape May bubble is what would be called lower Cape May County, generally south of the Cape May Canal. That would include Lower Township, West Cape May, Cape May Point, and maybe the Wildwoods. I think in general, based on the information we talked about today, I would say most of Cape May County is in the bubble. The only towns I think that would not be, I would say traditionally, or I don't want to say traditionally, the only towns that wouldn't be in the bubble, Upper Township, Woodbine, Ocean City, and probably Dennis Township as well, Dennis Township and Sea Isle City. And that's because if you look at the map, let me go back to the map of Cape May County, and I'll kind of illustrate this a little bit. You got to get to the peninsula part of Cape May County in order to really feel the impacts of having water on all three sides. I think I can annotate this. So I draw a line right here. That's everywhere here, where I kind of just drew this line, this squiggly line, is influenced by water on all three sides. So anywhere south of, let's say, Avalon to Middle Township on south would be part of the Cape May bubble, in my opinion.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
All right, we'll see if there are more questions come in.
sure.
But can you talk a little bit more about maybe your experiences being a meteorologist in New Jersey? Like,
Yeah.
how is it different than maybe some other parts of the country or the region? And
Yeah.
what's unique?
Yeah. So, the one thing New Jersey has that not everywhere in the United States has is four distinct seasons. And we kind of take it for granted here. But, if you're a meteorologist in Miami, San Diego, Anchorage, Alaska, right? Your climate is just different. You're in a different climate zone. We have four distinct seasons. We have a summer, we have a fall, we have a winter, we have a spring. We're also by the coast. Anytime you're by the coast, your difficulty of forecasting increases. Now, if you cover just the Jersey Shore like me, it increases even more because that's what you're focused on. But let's just take snow for example. Now, if you're forecasting for a winter storm in Iowa, your main question is how much precipitation is going to fall in various parts of Iowa because it's all land around it. Now, compare it to New Jersey. Yes, we need to know how much precipitation is going to fall, but you also want to know what direction is the wind and how strong is that wind and what are the ocean water temperatures. Because if you have a wind coming out of the east, well, that's going to blow in relatively milder ocean air. If you're in Iowa, an east wind is still coming off of Illinois, which is a land breeze, which generally during the winter is a cold breeze. During the winter, ocean breezes are generally mild breezes compared to the average temperature on land. And land breezes are cold breezes. So it gets more difficult that way. And when we see these coastal storms, there's always that rain snow line because of the ocean influence. Um, so we've already seen that this winter, where the shore did not get as much snow as places northwest. Think about, I don't know where everybody lives, but in November, we had unofficially the biggest statewide snow on record. Where did that happen? In the hills of northwest New Jersey, on the hilltops there, because the winds were coming out of the east and the northeast, where in Sussex County, that's still a cold land breeze. But for the Jersey Shore and most of the coastal plain, anywhere southeast of the Turnpike, that's a relatively milder ocean breeze. So I'm not going to say New Jersey is the most difficult place in the country to forecast, but it's definitely above average.
Does the east-west shore in Cape May affect the bubble?
Yeah, so I think we're talking about like this area here. Not really. I mean, it's just part of the bubble. It's influenced. I mean, yeah, in this area here, that's where you have the most influence by having water on all three sides of you. Because you're just kind of stuck out there, and that's why. Let's see if I can clear this. Again, the traditionalists would say, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. Can you see what I'm drawing on the Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So traditionalists would say that this circle here, that's the Cape May bubble. And that's because they're most influenced by water on all three sides. But again, I would say it's more like this area here. So yeah, it's a little more nuanced down here, absolutely. But I think the whole area that I circled is part of the Cape May bubble, and the research backs that up when it comes to the thunderstorm data. This corridor has less thunderstorms than other parts of New Jersey.
Does the Cape May bubble influence the path of nor'easters, like push it out to sea?
No, not really. The Cape May bubble, and again, we're talking about this a little tongue in cheek, Cape May bubble, but the Cape May bubble is really more of the localized kind of system. So that's your thunderstorms, your pop-up showers that form, and sea breeze fronts, rather than what we call synoptic storms, which are your nor'easters and hurricanes and the like.
Was there ever a time when there was a sudden or dramatic weather change in the bubble? And if so, how long did it last?
Yeah, well, so the stories, stories from people are, the stereotypical story is I'm sitting here in Cape May Point. I drew a horrible bubble or a horrible star there. See if I could try it again. Hey, Joe, I'm sitting right here in Cape May Point and I'm looking to my west and I see a thunderstorm cloud. and it kind of fizzled out by the time it got here. There was no thunderstorm. So that's the kind of stuff we see in the bubble. Now, I have seen, on radar, this happened. The storm looks, there's a severe thunderstorm warning issued by the National Weather Service in Dover, Delaware, which is due west of Cape May. It crosses the bay and it just turns into plain rain. And that happens in less than an hour. So yeah, we've seen, those kind of sudden, I wouldn't say changes within the bubble itself, but changes as you're coming into this part of Cape May County, this peninsula part of Cape May County here.
How does the bubble impact how hurricanes affect us?
So,
Or-
no real influence there, because again, anything that's a larger scale system, which would be, your hurricanes, nor'easters, they, for lack of a better word, just overpower anything the bubble's doing. If a hurricane misses Cape May County because it hits Monmouth County, that's not the Cape May bubble. That's just weather being weather. Same thing with a nor'easter as well. If Cape May County sees, a quarter inch of precipitation, but, Sandy Hook saw 2 inches, that's more probably weather being weather. The bubbles really for those smaller scale things, pop-up showers and thunderstorms moving in from the west, sea breeze fronts, things that we call our mesoscale meteorology, things that are on the smaller scale. Thanks for the question.
How do you predict the bubble to change as climate continues to warm? Will it be more or less impacted than the rest of New Jersey in terms of extreme or unusual weather?
Yeah, I think I believe Cape May County will change, has and will change similar to the rest of New Jersey. We're not seeing we're not seeing it warming faster than other parts of the state. We're not seeing it, warming slower than other parts of the state. Anytime with this caveat, the shore is going to has and will increase slower than other parts than inland New Jersey, and that's just because of the oceanic influence. But it's not like Wildwood is warming faster than Seabright, for example, in Monmouth County. So in terms of the weather, I mean, what we've seen, have seen, and will continue to see in our climate changing world is more significant and extreme weather events. Now, that doesn't include everything because we haven't it's not like we're seeing more tornadoes, for example. But when it comes to, heavy rain events, yeah, there's usually more moisture in the air now than there was in the 1960s, and we have a greater propensity for flooding. There's sea level rise. Now, what I'll say is most sea level rise is not due to the increase in greenhouse gas emissions. It's due to a combination of naturally sinking land as well as the increase in building along the shore. But that's a change as well.
Does the bubble have any any impact on riptides?
Oh, you know what? That is a good question. I'm not aware of anything. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't think so though, because again, this is riptides. Usually, if they impact Cape May, they impact other parts of the state. It's not always, riptides are not something that's really just impacting one or two towns.
Not Cape May bubble related, but why are we seeing more tornadic weather patterns in recent years?
Okay, so the tornadoes. So good, good question here. Um, we have seen not this year, but in years past, or 2024, but in years past, a good number of tornadoes in the state. There is no, I've done articles on this. There is no correlation from climate change to more tornadoes here in the state. I've talked with the New Jersey state climatologist about this. He believes that this is really just weather being weather. And, some years we're getting more, some years we're getting less. I would say this is, in my opinion, I don't know this for sure, but the big difference between tornadoes in 2025 and tornadoes in 1985 is everybody has one of these. It could take a video and a photo of what's happening. If a tree falls in the woods and no one knows about it, did the tree fall in the woods? Kind of same thing for a tornado. If a tornado passed through an extremely rural area of New Jersey, well, maybe no one saw it, one, or if they did see it, they didn't have visual evidence for it. Now we have greater visual evidence. But there's no impact, there's no correlation between um, climate change and what's happening with tornadoes in New Jersey.
Are there bubbles elsewhere in the country where land is surrounded by water on three sides? For example, Long Island or the southern Delmarva Peninsula?
Yeah, so let's go to this graphic here. Again, what you're seeing on the right is the frequency of the radar exceeding what we would say in the weather world 45 dBz in the late spring up top, and then the summer on the bottom. dBz is the strength of the precipitation reflecting back to the radar beam. So you think about a radar, right? You see the reds and the yellows. That's high dBz, above 45. So we're talking about that heavy rain here. So you look at other places in the country. I know this is hard to see because the image is kind of small, but let's take Long Island, for example. Yeah, there's less thunderstorms on the east end of Long Island than there are, near New York City because it is surrounded by three sides on water. And you still have that water in between the north and the south fork of Long Island. The Delmarva, there's really no difference there. While it is a peninsula, um, usually excuse me, the Chesapeake Bay, which is to the west, is really not wide enough to have a big enough influence. If you look at Cape May County, you have a couple dozen miles between Cape May and central Delaware. That's not the case necessarily on the Chesapeake Bay. And then, of course, Florida. I mean, Florida is a great example of this. It's a big peninsula, and we see the most thunderstorm activity and the most lightning, most amount of lightning in the state of Florida. And that's because we get those constant sea breezes there during the spring, summer, and most of the fall, where east winds from the sea breeze on the Atlantic Ocean meet up with the Gulf of Mexico. They push inland, they meet up, causes upward motion, and it creates the rain and the thunderstorm. So, it's not really the bubble there. It's almost the opposite of the bubble because of just how strong the sun is, one, which creates more unstable air, and that constant, for months at a time, meeting of the winds from the Gulf of Mexico with the Atlantic Ocean.
What caused Superstorm Sandy to swing away from the bubble area? Is there any precedent for hurricane going up the Delaware Bay?
Yeah, so the K-May bubble, again, this was like a weather thing. Superstorm Sandy was the largest hurricane in the Atlantic hurricane basin by area. Still is to this day. It ended up, going into Brigantine. Cape May was always in the forecast cone. So was Brigantine, but it ended up just being in Brigantine. So the Cape May bubble didn't really have an influence there. Is there a precedent for storms going up the Delaware Bay? No, we haven't seen one on record that's gone literally directly up the mouth of the Delaware Bay, but it could happen. I mean, look at the path of Sandy, right? It went from generally southeast to northwest. I mean, if it did that 75 miles, or not even, if it did it 50 miles south, it would have went right up the Delaware Bay. We have had storms, hurricanes, tropical storms that have gone over the Delaware Bay, but not right up the mouth. It's kind of, went through the Delmarva Peninsula and then went into the Delaware Bay.
Um, Please explain the atmospheric dynamics that cause a thunderstorm coming from Delaware to break up before reaching the beaches at Cape May Point.
Yeah.
You kind of alluded to this, but maybe a little bit more. They want a little bit more specifics about
Yeah.
what
Okay.
actually happens.
Yeah, sure. So thunderstorms are caused by rising air and an unstable air mass. So during the spring and summer, the sun is strong, right? We feel it. We can get burned during the summer. Well, think about you're boiling a pot of water. Okay. The stronger that flame is, right? The more, while it's already boiling, the stronger that flame is, the more bubbles you're going to see, the more rising motion you're going to see than when you have it on a low heat. the bubbles aren't usually as big. So when you have a strong sun, that's like turning that oven all the way to, or excuse me, that the stove all the way to high. A lot of big bubbles are forming. Air thermals, pockets of air are rising, and they're rising because they have that source, that heat source at the surface. Sun's baking the ground, creating that rising air. That's what's creating the clouds and creating the thunderstorms. Okay. So what happens when you go over to Delaware Bay? Well, during, let's just say April, Delaware Bay might be 50 degrees. Well, now what you did, not only did you turn down the heat on the stove, but you kind of turned it off. So yeah, sure, there's still going to be some bubbles in that boiling water, right? Even after you turn it off, but it's going down and going down pretty rapidly. There's fewer and fewer bubbles. So think of it that way. So it's reducing, it's cutting off the heat source for that thunderstorm that's needed to survive and thrive. Thunderstorms need, there's two ways to get thunderstorms. One is a big contrast in uh, temperatures. So, a cold front slicing through an area, so slicing through a landmass will create thunderstorms. Or two, what we call air mass thunderstorms, which again, sun heating the ground. The ground is creating these air thermals, kind of like those bubbles of boiling water. They rise up, create clouds, create thunderstorms. In that air mass thunderstorm situation, storms might be in the Delmarva, right? The heat's on all the way. You have it on high. Go over the Delaware Bay. Now we turn the stove off. Still a couple of bubbles, right? Still water's still bubbling, but not as much as it did before. Same concept as it makes its way into Cape May County, where it's just a weakened version of itself. Whoever asked that question, let me know if I explained that good. I can explain it again or differently if I didn't, because I want to make sure we got that right.
So the Raritan Bay wouldn't be wide enough to cause a bubble effect, right?
It could, but the thing is, when you, it's not so much that it's wide enough; it's where the land is and how it's situated. So the Raritan Bay, the only landmass that kind of sticks out in the Raritan Bay is Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook's, first of all, no one lives there. It's super narrow. So there's not really an influence there. I mean, there's a minor influence, but the Raritan Bay also isn't as wide as the Delaware Bay.
Um, is there a similar bubble in Michigan, which is surrounded by lakes as opposed to the ocean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about lake effect snow. I mean, it's not, maybe it's the opposite of the bubble. Sometimes you get the opposite of the bubble here, which is more significant weather. So you get that with lake effect snow in Lake Michigan. It's same thing with thunderstorms as well. You get less thunderstorms, I should say. Excuse me. I'll share my screen again. Apologize for that. Anything else I can answer for you guys? Any more
Um,
bubble questions? Weather questions?
we'll give it a few moments to see
Sure.
if anything comes in.
Yeah.
So, but anything you want to like reiterate or touch on or want to share as we kind of end the program?
Yeah, we're in late January, so we're in the middle of winter, but starting about a month from now, we will be getting into sea breeze season again, where you'll start to see, those differences between the immediate coast in the inland areas intensify. And when I say the coast, that also includes most of Cape May County is going to end up being cooler than places to the north and west that are inland. And you'll see the first sea breeze front probably develop in late February. And then it doesn't really get going with regularity until the middle of March. And you need a sunny day for this too, I should say. If it's cloudy, you're not going to get it. But you'll start getting this regularity in March, mid-March, and in prime sea breeze season, April, May, early June. And take a look at those temperatures in Cape May, even places, Middle Township, Cape May Courthouse, Lower Township, you know, even places that are not a direct beach town in Cape May County because they are right next to the Delaware Bay and there's still water surrounded on three sides in those areas. You'll see those temperatures being a good bit different than places further to the north and west that are inland and don't have that same kind of influence from the Delaware Bay and the Atlantic Ocean at the same time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate you speaking with us today
Yeah,
and demystifying, the weather of New Jersey and how we're so small, but we're still so unique in the United States. So it's great to hear.
absolutely.
All right. Well, and thank you everybody for attending today. We hope you found it informative and exciting. And uh, as I mentioned, there will be a survey at the end. So if you have time, we ask you please complete it. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much again, Joe. And everybody be safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in. I see a couple of thank yous here. Thanks so much. Special thanks to Pat for suggesting me to be here. So I really appreciate it.